Hotep, everybody. This is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network and host of the African History Network show. It is Thursday, September 5th, 2024. I'm a historian, national political commentator, and talk show host. So, a lot of talk has been taking place since September 1st about a viral video that actor and singer Tyrese Gibson did along with attorney Benjamin Crump. And in this video, Tyrese made some false statements about the so-called Asian hate crime bill, and he accused President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris of signing a bill to protect Asian Americans and not signing a hate crimes bill to protect African Americans. All of this is false. All of this is false. I've dealt with this on the African History Network show a number of times previously. We've talked about it on Roland Martin Unfiltered as well. So I'm going to show the video and walk you through step by step and show how what Tyrese was saying was blatantly false. And I think he means well, but he really needs to do some research. Okay. He really needs to get some people around him who know what they're talking about. He has enough money to pay consultants and tutors and all different types of things like this. Okay. Now, as I've stated before, the name of the bill is not the Asian hate crime bill. The name of the bill is the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, S937, the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. That's the name of the bill. The bill deals with COVID-19 related hate crimes, not race related hate crimes. Okay. So I'm going to walk you through this. Now, I posted on my social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube and Instagram, on September 1st in response to what Tyrese said. And here's the post that I put on my fan page, the African History Network, September 1st, 2024. So some of you may have seen it, and I also put it on my personal page as well, Michael Imhotep. All right, so it says, so actor Tyrese Gibson is saying Asian Americans received a hate crimes bill and African Americans did not. This is false and more disinformation. I guess he forgot about the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. I guess he forgot that the first hate crimes act in the history of the United States, in the history of the U.S., was signed into law in 1968 by President Lyndon Baines Johnson as part of the Fair Housing Act of 1968. It was largely for African Americans and a result of the modern day civil rights movement. I provide links below to provide evidence for what I'm talking about for these hate crime bills. Okay, so people can actually go read them. I said Tyrese Gibson is a good actor and singer. Some people dispute that, but giving him the benefit of the doubt. Tyrese is a good actor and singer, but obviously doesn't study politics and has never read the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act that I just showed you at congress.gov. Congress.gov is where you go to read bills that are proposed and passed in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate. Okay. You go to congress.gov to read that. He's never read the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, which is the real name of the quote unquote Asian hate crimes bill. Okay. That people call the Asian hate crimes bill. The bill deals with data collecting and does not include federal penalties for killing or harming Asian Americans. Okay. The bill deals with data collecting. Also, the bill applies to anyone regardless of race or ethnicity, including African Americans. So when you read the bill, it applies to any race or ethnicity, even though the impetus of the bill was an increase in hate crimes against Asian Americans, especially associated with COVID-19, because Donald Trump was calling COVID-19 Kung flu. Kung Flu in relationship to China and the Chinese. It actually deals with COVID-19 related hate crimes. Okay, so then I put the link here for S937, the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, the link at congress.gov. I put the link to the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill at congress.gov. And then I put a link to the hate crimes laws going back to the 1968 Fair Housing Act, and that's at justice.gov, which is the official website of the Department of Justice. And then I also put a link to the fact sheet from whitehouse.gov. This is a 36-page fact sheet called the Biden-Harris Administration Advances Equity and Opportunity for Black Americans and Communities Across the Country. And this fact sheet breaks down policy by policy and shows how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are helping the African-American community. Now, most of these policies, Republicans either voted against or don't support and are trying to weaken or repeal altogether. Okay, so that's at whitehouse.gov. So I'm a researcher and a historian, as well as a national political commentator. I deal with facts and evidence. Proper documentation ends all conversation. Okay, so with that being said, let's go to this video. I'm going to show you an excerpt of this video here that Tyrese Gibson did with Attorney Benjamin Crump. And Roland Martin posted this on his X page, formerly Twitter. I don't spend a lot of time on X or Twitter. I despise Elon Musk, and I don't spend a lot of time on here. I have 1 million followers on my Facebook fan page, the African History Network, so I spend more time on Facebook and on YouTube. But Roland posted what Tyrese said here is a 100% lie. This bill was not only to protect Asians. I have debunked this lie many times on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And when I'm on Roland Martin Unfiltered every Friday as a panelist. I've been on almost every Friday since October 2020. I've done probably 150 episodes of Roland Martin Unfiltered or more. And we've talked about this a number of times on Roland Martin Unfiltered when I've been on, and I'll be on again tomorrow as well. He said, bruh, call someone who knows this stuff before spouting it. Okay. So this originally appeared on the Art of Dialogue Twitter page, X page. It says Tyrese calls out Joe Biden and Kamala Harris for signing a hate crime bill to protect Asians, but skipping over Black and Latino people who are being killed. So he was on with Attorney Benjamin Crump. Okay, let's go to this nonsense so you can hear what he said. And I've already provided evidence to refute this nonsense, but let's take a look at this.
President Biden and Kamala Harris signed an Asian hate crime bill, which makes it beyond illegal to ever purposely and maliciously do anything to anybody in the Asian community. And there was a spike in crimes and criminal behavior in and around COVID, allegedly and specifically motivated by Trump. And so everybody started treating Asians, beating them, killing them, shooting them, stabbing them, hurting them. And then he gets into the White House, skips over every Black and brown Mexican and Latino that have been getting killed like flies, and he makes it a law. Asian hate crime bill is signed into law. So whether you're a police officer or a regular civilian, if you wake up on a Wednesday and say, he's Asian, a woman or a man, let's go do something bad to them, which God forbid would ever happen again. But it is a crime bill that was signed into law that protects Asians at all costs. Where is that same fucking law to be signed into law when it comes to Black and brown people? Because what you're doing is, President Biden and Kamala Harris, what you're doing is you're saying that Black and brown people will continue to be disposable. That's why we got to vote, and we got to make sure our voices are heard, Tyrese.
And it matters when we speak up and speak truth to power. When we speak what's on our heart, we will be heard. But first, you got to have the courage to speak up. And that's why I love you, Tyrese. You speak your heart, and your heart will never fail you.
Okay, so before you have the courage to speak up, you need to do some research, because this is the dumbest shit I've heard all week. I'm just going to be honest with you. And I've studied politics every day. This right here, this is ridiculous. Why Attorney Benjamin Crump didn't fact check Tyrese, I don't understand, but we're going to do it right now. Luckily, I'm here. So let's go through, and I'm going to break this down for you. Now, first, there's an article that came out either today or yesterday from September 5th, came out today, MSNBC blog, Jahan Jones. And because I was searching before we came on the air, I was searching to see if Tyrese did a retraction, if he did a clarification, anything like that. So apparently he still doesn't know what he said was 100% false. Let's look at this here. And this is why you need to have people around you that like can help you out and keep you from going out and embarrassing yourself and just saying things that are factually wrong. A simple Google search could have saved singer Tyrese Gibson a whole lot of embarrassment. That's the name of this blog here, or this article. A simple Google search could have saved singer Tyrese Gibson a whole lot of embarrassment. Gibson's claim about the Biden administration and hate crime legislation is false. Even before he said this nonsense floating around on social media from these black social media disinformation agents putting this information out here, we've refuted that before. But it shows in part how black people can be targeted with political misinformation. It shows in part how black people can be targeted with political misinformation. Okay. And your thoughts create feelings, your feelings create actions and behaviors, your actions and behaviors create results. So in here, just very quickly, it says that, okay, they have the quote from Tyrese, and it said he used the phrase Asian hate crime bill multiple times in his rant. But reader, there is no such thing. Perhaps Tyrese merely read headlines. Perhaps Tyrese merely read headlines of news articles describing the real bill in shorthand as an Asian hate crime bill. But in reality, Congress reacted to the raft of anti-Asian attacks in 2021 during the COVID-19 pandemic with the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. As I showed you at congress.gov, that's the name of the bill, COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. As NPR noted, National Public Radio, and I'm going to show you the article from National Public Radio because I've shown this article before on the African History Network show, which actually talks about what the bill does. This bill simply instructed and provided tools for the Justice Department to expedite the review of COVID-19 related hate crimes, not merely those committed against Asian people, but all COVID-19 related hate crimes. Also, the bill does not make it a federal hate crime to kill Asian Americans. It does not add additional penalties for killing Asian Americans. The bill deals with data collecting, making it easier to collect data dealing with COVID-19 related hate crimes. There's funding around this. Also funding for language translators, because one of the barriers to reporting hate crimes when you have people whose first language is not English is a language barrier. The bill does not make it a federal hate crime to kill Asian Americans. It does not attach any penalty for killing Asian Americans or anybody. The bill deals with data collecting. Now, if he had done a 5-minute Google search, as opposed to going off of misinformation that he saw on social media, because he obviously didn't read the bill. I've gone through and read the bill. Okay. He could have saved himself this embarrassment. And celebrities have to have more responsibility. It's good to be passionate and want to talk about politics, things like this, but you have to know what you're talking about. There's a responsibility. The larger your platform, the more followers you have, the more influence you have, the more responsibility you have to do research and know what you're talking about. The word quote unquote Asian appears only in the opening paragraphs of the law to explain the impetus behind the legislation. And that's before we address the blatantly false suggestion that the hate crime legislation crafted for Black people does not already exist. As I've said a number of times on Roland Martin Unfiltered, as I've said a number of times on the African History Network show, we've shown you the information from justice.gov. I reposted the information on Facebook here on September 1st. The Civil Rights Act of 1968, that was the first hate crimes bill in the history of this country, and that was a result of the modern day civil rights movement. It was signed shortly after Dr. King was assassinated. It was the Fair Housing Act of 1968, also called the Civil Rights Act of 1968. And a portion of that bill, there's a hate crimes bill in there. And that was largely for African Americans as a result of the modern day civil rights movement. Then in 1996, you have the Church Arson Prevention Act of 1996. 2009, President Barack Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act of 2009. They were all authorized in response to anti-Black hate crimes. And then everybody, for some reason, everybody forgets the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, which we will talk about. The Emmett Till anti-lynching bill that President Biden signed into law in 2022, which is the first anti-lynching bill in 122 years. The first anti-lynching bill in 122 years. They tried to get it passed in 2019, but Senator Rand Paul from Kentucky blocked the bill. You know who was a co-sponsor of the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill in 2019? A Black woman senator from California named Kamala Harris, who also co-wrote the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act that Senator Tim Scott from South Carolina blocked in the Senate. She co-wrote the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act. She co-sponsored the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, the anti-lynching bill in 2019 when she was in the Senate. Now, Tyrese said that Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris signed an Asian hate crime bill. Biden did sign the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. But I don't know when vice presidents sign bills, unless the president is incapacitated, like the president has surgery, the president is in a coma or something like that, and the vice president has to sign a bill. When the hell do vice presidents sign bills? He said Vice President Kamala Harris signed a bill. When do vice presidents sign bills? Somebody needs Schoolhouse Rock 2024 version. Now, check this out, because I wanted to make sure I was accurate on this, and I did more research, even though I know what I'm talking about. I did more research on this. Here's a source that everybody can access dealing with how bills become laws. This is at norton.house.gov. This is Eleanor Holmes Norton, member of the Congressional Black Caucus in the U.S. House of Representatives. House.gov is the official website of the U.S. House of Representatives. They have all types of information there. There's a history section. I've done research at the history section, as well as Senate.gov, official website of the U.S. Senate, done research at their history section as well. How a bill becomes law. How a bill becomes law. You can go through, read this. It talks about the House and the Senate, walks you through the process, the committee action, being voted out of committee, going to the floor, going to the House floor for a vote. No bill can come to the House floor for a vote or debate without permission of the Speaker of the House of Representatives, which is why which party is in control of the House is so important, because you can't even get bills debated on with Republicans in charge. They haven't even passed a damn budget. They have not. The 118th Congress has not passed the budget. They are constitutionally bound to pass a budget, the fiscal year budget. They have not passed the budget yet. They're on their second or third continuing resolution. If they don't pass a budget or a continuing resolution by September 30th, you know what happens? The government shuts down. And for those who haven't been paying attention, Donald Trump is pushing for a government shutdown. I posted this piece here from NBCnews.com. We posted it on my personal page and my fan page, the African History Network. If you look, let's flip over to this. Read this article here. See, politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. Politics impacts every aspect of our lives, from the water we drink to the air we breathe to the food we eat. It impacts our economy, and for all the economic empowerment gurus out here who lie to you and say we don't need to vote, we just need to do economic empowerment and build 5-story buildings and do like the Asians do. Asians vote too. They just don't tell you when they vote. Asians vote too. If you do the research, you'll see that Asian Americans vote as well, and they are voting in increasing numbers also as they start learning more about politics, because many of them come from countries where they couldn't vote. Their history is entirely different than ours. Okay, Asian Americans vote as well. House GOP leaders weigh options as Trump pushes for a government shutdown. This is from NBCnews.com. House Republican leaders are considering tying federal funding to a GOP election bill that Democrats say is a poison pill. The deadline to avoid a government shutdown is September 30th, 2024. Read this article from NBCnews.com. Okay, and I posted a link here to it in the post that I did. All right, let's go back to this here. Okay, so you can take a look at this. This is at norton.house.gov, how a bill becomes law. So that walks you through the process of how a bill becomes law, passing the House of Representatives, passing the Senate, being signed in law by the president. The vice president does not sign bills unless the president is incapacitated and the vice president is in charge. The vice president does not sign bills. Okay, just so people understand. All right, now let's go to this piece here from National Public Radio, npr.org, from May 20th, 2021. May 20th, 2021. And I've referenced this article before. This was the article that Jahan Jones referenced in his piece from MSNBC that I just showed you. Here's what the new hate crimes law aims to do as attacks on Asian Americans rise. Okay. Now, keep in mind, this is not the first hate crimes bill. The first hate crimes bill was 1968. That was largely for African Americans. People don't study history, and they just don't even do a 5-minute Google search, and they just put nonsense out here. And then you have other people who know less than them who just believe the nonsense and just run with it. If we look here, let's see, let's go down. The legislation. This is what I want to go to. The legislation introduced by Representative Grace Meng, MENG, Democrat of New York, and Senator Mazie Hirono, Democrat of Hawaii, aims to make the reporting of hate crimes more accessible at the local and state levels by boosting public outreach and ensuring reporting resources are available online in multiple languages. The bill did not make it a federal hate crime to kill Asian Americans. The bill deals with data data collecting. It did not impose new penalties for hate crimes. That's not what the bill does. The bill also directs the Department of Justice to designate a point person to expedite the review of hate crimes related to COVID-19 and authorizes grants to state and local governments to conduct crime reduction programs to prevent and respond to hate crimes. Okay? It does not give Asian Americans more protection than African Americans. No. Where the hell people get this nonsense from? Please tell me where y'all get this bullshit from, please, so we can put a stop to this. We're in the information age. Everybody has a smartphone and we're dumber than ever. It doesn't make any sense. Vice President Harris introduced Biden ahead of the signing and reflected on the increase in violence against Asian Americans, etc. Okay, you can read all that. They talk about xenophobia, Islamophobia, all of this, right? The signing comes 2 days after the House of Representatives passed the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act by a vote of 364 to 62. All 62 votes against the bill were Republicans. All 62 votes in the House of Representatives against the bill were Republicans. The Senate approved the legislation last month with near unanimous support. Missouri Republican Josh Hawley was the sole senator to vote against the bill. That punk ass Josh Hawley. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, Republican from Kentucky, attended Thursday's ceremony, etc. Okay, he didn't freeze up that time back then in 2021. Let's see. Okay, read the rest of this article here. Okay, Asian Americans have faced a dramatic spike in violence throughout the pandemic. And they talk about right here, Kung flu. Democrats have pointed to former President Donald Trump's frequent use of racist phrases such as Kung flu to describe the coronavirus as a link to the increase in anti-Asian sentiment in the country. Okay, and one of the things that spearheaded this bill was there was a series in Georgia. There was a rash of killing of Asian Americans at spas, things like that. But once again, this bill deals with data collecting. It does not make it a federal hate crime to kill Asian Americans. It does not add new penalties for killing Asian Americans, anything like that. The Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, which we're going to talk about in just a minute, does increase the penalty for lynching people. And for all those people that don't know how to do research, lynching does not mean hanging somebody with a rope and killing them. That's only one way to lynch people, because people are confused about that as well. Because I shared this information with somebody. They say, oh, they don't lynch black people anymore. They shoot them. You can lynch people by shooting them also. It's an unjust killing by a mob or something of that nature. Okay, a conspiracy. The lynching is not specific to hanging someone. This is why we have to do research. Okay, and it's way too many people putting information out here that haven't done the 5-minute Google search, because if they did, they would realize they didn't know what they were talking about. All right, so read this piece here from NPR.org, National Public Radio, and it has a link to the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act in the bill, in the article. Okay, it has a link to the actual bill. Let me post this here. All right, everybody give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. The bill deals with COVID-19. So somebody didn't read the bill. The bill deals with COVID-19 related hate crimes. So anybody that suffers from a COVID-19 related hate crimes, the bill applies to them. People don't read. Sean Ford. People don't read. Okay. All right. Now, let's go and look at, and let me show the bill again here. This is at congress.gov. Now, congress.gov is the official website of the U.S. Congress. Bills that are proposed, bills that pass the House, or bills that pass the Senate, or bills that pass both and get signed into law. All those bills are right here. You can go read the damn bill. You can read a summary of the bill. You can read the full bill. You can see who voted for the bill. You can see if you're a member of the House of Representatives voted for the bill. All that information, this is a free website. All that information is public. All that information is right here, congress.gov. Okay, S937 COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, sponsors Senator Hirono, Mazie Hirono, Democrat of Hawaii. You can see they have a tracker to track the progress of the bill. The bill became law. Latest action, May 20th, 2021. The bill became law. It goes through, gives a summary of it. I'm not going to walk through all this. You can read it yourself. It goes through, gives a summary, talks about the impetus of the bill. It talks about killing of Asian Americans that took place in Georgia, Atlanta, Georgia, in Region 7, the spa killings, things like this. It goes through, talks about what the bill does. It does not impose additional penalties. It doesn't make it a federal hate crime to kill Asian Americans. Like I said, it deals with data collecting, all right, as we just outlined. So you can go read through this, all right? So we can dispel this myth once and for all that Asians got a hate crime bill, black people didn't get shit, okay? Stop listening to these simple Simon-ass people out here lying to you and don't provide evidence. All right, now, go read the bill, Cedric. All right, now, the bill, read the bill. The bill applies to anybody, regardless of race or ethnicity. Read the bill. Reading is not illegal. I know it was illegal for most slaves to learn to read and write. What's your excuse for not reading today? Reading is fundamental. I understand during slavery, for majority of slaves, different states had different laws, because in Virginia, it was legal for slaves to learn to read and write up until 1831. We've talked about this before. What happened in 1831 in Virginia? The Nat Turner Rebellion. And Nat Turner was literate. He could read and write, and he could read the Bible, and he used the Bible as a tool to teach his people that they were supposed to be free and to take up arms and fight for their freedom. After the Nat Turner Rebellion was put down, after the men who were captured, they were executed. After he was executed, what did the state legislature in Virginia do? They passed a law to make it illegal for slaves to learn to read and write in Virginia. Okay. Now, our ancestors have an excuse for not learning to read and write. We don't. Information is there. All right. So read the rest of the bill, because the bill applies to anybody, regardless of race or ethnicity. And the reason why it applies to anybody, regardless of race or ethnicity, is because Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act makes race-based policies illegal. So it's illegal to have laws at the federal level that are only for one race of people. Okay. So if you haven't read the 1964 Civil Rights Act, go to archives.gov, U.S. National Archives, and read the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Let me show it to you, because people, I don't know where y'all getting this misinformation from, but I deal with facts and evidence. That's why I'm showing you the bill so you can go read it yourself. You have to read past the first two paragraphs, Cedric. And have you read the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill? No, you haven't. Because if you did, you would know the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill is a much stronger bill. Okay, well, I'm going to show you the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill in just a minute. All right, let's look at this here. Civil Rights Act of 1964. is at archives.gov. What's archives.gov? Official website of the U.S. National Archives, where you can go read all these documents. U.S. Constitution, Declaration of Independence. You can go read the court ruling and the court documents from the 1841 U.S. Supreme Court case of the United States versus the Amistad. How do I know? Because I've gone and read it. I've gone and studied that case. I teach about that case in my online history classes. This is the 1964 Civil Rights Act signed by President Lyndon Baines Johnson, July 2nd, 1964, right? Okay, so if we go to, we want to look at Title 6, so search for Title 6. Actually, I'm going to search for 601 because I want section 601, Title 6. Right here. This is why race-based policies are illegal at the federal level. Now, how did I learn about this? Because I've been involved in writing public policy for the city of Detroit. That's how I learned about it. I was on the committee to write an executive order for the city of Detroit. And at our first meeting, corporate counsel told us it's illegal to have laws that are only for one race of people. Now, you can have laws and policies that disproportionately positively impact people, but it's illegal to have laws for only one race of people. Title 6, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs, section 601. No person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. This is section 601 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Title 6, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. This is why race-based policies are illegal. It's illegal to have policies only for one race of people. This is the problem that the hashtag cut the check reparations people are going to have. They got in California, they have a similar law. This is why in California, any type of reparations that are going to be distributed, whenever they're distributed, any type is going to have to be based upon lineage, not based upon specifically race, to try to get around that. Now, because I've talked to Kamala Moore, the former co-chair of that task force, that theory has not been tested in court yet, because there are going to be lawsuits filed. That theory has not been tested in court yet. It's a theory that they're hoping to get around California state law that bans race-based policies by basing it based upon lineage. There's way too many people out here that don't understand law and just putting all type of BS out here, preying on people's emotions and preying on people's ignorance. I deal with facts and evidence. I can prove to you what I'm talking about. Go read this, go research this yourself. I'm going to post a link here. This is the 1964 Civil Rights Act, section 601, non-discrimination in federally assisted programs. Okay. And you can just Google, why are race-based policies illegal at the federal level? You know what's going to come up? Title 6 of the 1964 Civil Rights Act. Okay, let's continue. Now, let's look at, so we did that. We did the 64 Civil Rights Act. Let's look at the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. There was an article. Now, when the bill was signed into law, we talked about it. Leading up to the bill being signed into law, we talked about on the African History Network show. I've been doing the African History Network show 14 years. Okay, a lot of people learned about me from Roland Martin Unfiltered. I've been on Roland Martin Unfiltered almost every Friday since October 2020, probably what, 150 episodes, something like that. I'll be back on tomorrow. Let's go to this. Okay. This article from Associated Press, and this piece is from March 29th, 2022. March 29th, 2022. Bill signs making lynching a federal hate crime. Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. Once again, it's important to understand law. lynching is not synonymous with hanging. Lynching is not synonymous with hanging. Hanging someone was the most popular way to lynch somebody historically, based upon, understanding history, things like that. It wasn't the only way. This is not specific to hanging somebody. Okay, let's look at this. Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. Is Vice President Kamala Harris right here. Okay, she didn't sign this bill either, because vice presidents don't sign bills. I don't know where Tyrese got that from. Here it says, let's see. Okay, let's scroll down. I want to go to this part here. Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. And once again, when she was in the Senate, she co-sponsored the anti-lynching bill in 2019 that was blocked by Senator Rand Paul, Republican from Kentucky. All this is public information, by the way. I don't have like secret access to I don't have like access to private database. I mean, I do have digital subscriptions to like New York Times, Washington Post, LA Times, Time Magazine, National Geographic, things like this. But see, I have thousands of articles printed up here in the office. This is the type of research I do. Okay, so that's why the type of information that you get from me is a lot different than you get from some of these other people out here. All right, let's look at this. I want to go to Emmett Till anti-lynching bill paragraph. Okay, talk about Representative George Henry White. That was when the anti-lynching bill was first introduced in Congress. That was back in 1900. They talk about Ida B. Wells. Congress first considered anti-lynching legislation more than 120 years ago. Until March of this year, March of 2022, it had failed to pass such legislation nearly 200 times, beginning with a bill introduced in 1900 by North Carolina Representative George Henry White, the only black member of Congress at the time, because Southern states rewrote their state constitutions after Reconstruction ended in 1877, starting with the Mississippi State Convention of 1890, where they rewrote the Mississippi State Constitution to impose poll taxes and literacy tests and a property ownership requirement to suppress the African-American vote in a state that had a majority black population. Then South Carolina did the same thing in 1895, Louisiana, 1898, Alabama, 1901. You have Georgia, Oklahoma. These former Confederate states are rewriting their state constitutions to suppress the African-American vote and basically lock us out of political power. So by 1900, George Henry White was the last African-American in Congress. And that's the year before Alabama rewrote their state constitution. Harris was a prime sponsor of the bill when she was in the Senate. Now, this is Associated Press telling you. Why is it all these black people say she ain't done shit for black people? Why aren't they talking about this? Senator Kamala Harris was a prime sponsor of the anti-lynching bill when she was in the Senate. How many people have told you this? I'm just curious. The Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act is named for the black teenager whose killing in Mississippi in the summer of 1955 became a galvanizing moment in the civil rights era. So I teach about this in my Sunday class, Black Resistance Movements from Christopher Columbus to the Haitian Revolution to the Black Power Movement, 1492 to 1968. Because when Rosa Parks was on that Cleveland Avenue bus, December 1st, 1955, she was thinking about Emmett Till because on November 27th, 1955, she attended an organizing meeting where Dr. T.R. Howard spoke. I think it was his name, Dr. T.R. Howard. And this was an organizing meeting, trying to get together witnesses and things like this to testify in the case of Emmett Till's killing. Because he was killed it's August of 1955. Okay, August 28, 1955, Emmett Till was killed. All right. So this was Emmett Till's lynching was a galvanizing moment. And this is something that really spurred the modern day civil rights movement. And you had Medgar Evers, who was in Jackson, Mississippi. Medgar Evers, who was the first field secretary for the NAACP in Jackson, Mississippi, he was involved in gathering evidence and gathering witnesses to testify in the trial of the two white men who killed Emmett Till, J.W. Bryant, Roy Bryant, and J.W. Millam. His grieving mother insisted on an open casket to show everyone how her son had been brutalized. Okay, so they talk about the Wheeler Parker, who was a cousin of Emmett Till. Let's see. Okay, in his remarks, Biden acknowledged the struggle to get a law on the books and spoke about how lynchings were used to terrorize and intimidate blacks in the United States. More than 4,400 blacks died by lynching between 1877 and 1950, mostly in the South, he said. At the NAACP's national website, naacp.org, they have statistics there on lynchings. It's something like 4,700 from like 1882 to 1968, something like that. We 72% of those lynched. Now, you have white people who were lynched, Jews, Italians, but disproportionately, it was African Americans who were lynched, and of the African Americans, disproportionately, it was African American men. A lot of that had to do with sex. And this is what Ida B. Wells found out when she did her research on lynchings after the Mosque Store murders of 1892 in Memphis, Tennessee, where where three of her friends were killed. Tom Moss, and they owned the People's Grocery Store in Memphis, Tennessee. After they were lynched, and they were shot to death. Okay, but that was a lynching. It was a mob that took them out of the jail, took them to the railroad. I think it was the railroad tracks or railroad yard, and shot them to death. Okay, that was an unjust killing. It was a mob killing. That was a lynching. She started researching lynchings of African American men, and she found out that oftentimes what was said to have been a rape, a black man raping a white woman, she found out oftentimes it was consensual sex between black men and white women. And the white woman's husband found out, or brother found out, or uncle or father or something like that, and they go get the good old boys to go lynch this Negro. But she found out a lot of the sex that white people said was a rape was actually consensual sex between black men and white women. There's a whole history of that. We can go back to the Moors in Europe intermixing into the European population, changing the complexion of Europeans, but there's a whole history of that here, trying to exclude African Americans out of rights and privileges, trying to keep them from gaining access to wealth by marrying into families. So you had anti-miscegenation laws in the colonies and then in states. You had laws banning and also you're gonna have a change in laws. Let me show you this quickly, and then we're gonna move on. Where's this? This is from the colony of Virginia. I'm gonna show you an example of what I mean here. Where is that? Right here. Okay, this is from encyclopediavirginia.org. This is one of my 100+ sources. One of my numerous sources I use in my classes. There's over 100 articles that we reference. Encyclopediavirginia.org. Really, really good resource. You can read the Virginia State Constitution, a lot of history there. 1662 in the colony of Virginia. Negro women's children to serve according to the condition of the mother. 1662. How many people are familiar with this? Negro women's children to serve according to the condition of the mother. Context. In the act, Negro women's children to serve according to the condition of the mother, passed by the General Assembly in the session of December 1662, Virginia's colonial government attempted to better define the conditions by which people were enslaved or free. By which people were enslaved or free. This was a reversal. Pay attention. This was a reversal of the usual common law presumption that the status of the child was determined by the father. The act enabled the reproduction of one's own labor force. So this dealt with slavery and being able to increase the number of slaves that you have by changing the laws to determine who was designated as a slave, who was designated as free. Okay, so the common law was the presumption of the status of the child was determined by who the father was, but you got these white men having sex with black women or raping black women, however you want to phrase it. Okay, so now, we got to change this. So that's exactly what the General Assembly in the Colony of Virginia did. This is Negro women's children to serve according to the condition of the mother, 1662. How many people are familiar with that? All right, now, let's see here. Okay, let's go back to the article here from Associated Press. Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. Okay, now, let's see where I was want to go. Oh, right here. Okay, bottom of page 1. The new law okay, Roy Bryant and J.W. Millam. Okay, his half brother. Okay. I want to go to this here. It talks about what the law does. Then I'm going to show you the bill at congress.gov. The new law, the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, that for some reason all these people don't talk about when they say Asians got a hate crime bill. The new law makes it possible to prosecute a crime as a lynching when a conspiracy to commit a hate crime leads to death or serious bodily injury, according to the bill's champion, Representative Bobby Rush, Democrat from Illinois. The law lays out a maximum sentence of 30 years in prison and fines. The law lays out a maximum sentence of 30 years in prison and fines. The COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act that people call the Asian Hate Crime Bill, there's no prison time associated with it. There's no penalties associated with it. That bill dealt with data collecting, as we've talked about already here. And just once again, so people understand, lynching is not synonymous with hanging. Hanging someone historically was probably the most popular or well-known type of lynching somebody, but it's not the only type. That's dealing with unjust killing, and it's dealing with being associated with a conspiracy to commit a hate crime. Okay, you can you can shoot somebody. If it fits the description here, that's a lynching. Lynching is not specific to hanging. The House of Representatives approved the bill by 422 to 3. It's 3 Republicans who voted against the bill. Representative Chip Roy out of Texas, hang him high. This Bama right here, Chip Roy, this white supremacist out of Texas, he said lynching was a good thing. Go research Chip Roy. BlackAmericaWeb.com has an article on him talking about that. He said lynching was a good thing. He's a Trump supporter also. Part of the Freedom Caucus. He's a Trump supporter. The House of Representatives approved the bill 422-3 on March 7th, 2022, with 8 members not voting after it cleared the Senate by unanimous consent. Representative Bobby Rush had introduced the bill in 2019, but it stalled in the Senate after the House passed the bill by a vote of 410 to 4. It was Senator Rand Paul, a Kentucky Republican, who blocked the bill in 2019, which is why it didn't pass in 2019. Senator Kamala Harris was a co-sponsor of the bill in 2019 when she was in the Senate. The NAACP began lobbying for anti-lynching legislation in the 1920s. Actually, we can go back to 1917. NAACP was founded in 1909. The Silent March of 1917, organized by James Weldon Johnson, who also wrote Lift Every Voice and Sing, that became the Black National Anthem. He was the organizer of the Silent March in 1917, when you had 10,000 African Americans marching down Manhattan, marching down Fifth Avenue in Manhattan, demanding a federal anti-lynching bill. That was 1917. A federal hate crime law was passed and signed in the 1990s, decades after the civil rights movement. All right, let's see here. Okay, so all right, you can read the rest of this. This is from the Associated Press. Name of the bill: Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. We'll post a link here. Okay, and then there was one from the Washington Post also. Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. There was one from the Washington Post. Let me pull this one up here. This was a good one from the Washington Post also. Notice in the video I showed you from Tyrese, he mentioned the Imhotep anti-lynching bill. Why people don't talk about that? They did a 5-minute Google search. I don't understand this. Everybody has Google on their smartphones, and we're dumber than ever. Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. Here's the signing of the bill. March 29, 2022. I want to go to several hate crime laws were enacted. Let's see here. Okay. The new law amends the U.S. Code to designate lynching a hate crime punishable by up to 30 years in prison. More than 4,000 people, mostly African Americans, were reported lynched in the United States from 1882 to 1968 in all but a handful of states. 99% of perpetrators escaped state or local punishment. Let's go to 5th paragraph from the top. Lawmakers tried and failed to pass anti-lynching bills nearly 200 times. The earliest such attempt came in 1900, as we talked about, when Representative George Henry White, Republican from North Carolina, then the country's only Black member of Congress. They ain't say because they were ran out of Congress in southern states, the former Confederate states rewrote state constitutions to impose poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, and property ownership requirements to suppress the African American vote and keep us from voting. Okay, so that's why he was the only one left in Congress, the only Black congressman left. It wasn't because the other was just resigned and said, "Oh, we're not going to do this anymore." No, it was systematic. It was systematic, the voter suppression that took place. The country's only black member of Congress stood on the floor of the House of Representatives and read the text of his unprecedented measure, okay, which would have prosecuted lynchings at the federal level. The bill later died in committee. Years later, Representative Leonidas C. Dyer, Republican of Missouri, introduced an anti-lynching bill that passed the House of Representatives, but was filibustered in the Senate by Southern Democrats, many of whom opposed it in the name of states' rights. The Emmett Till anti-lynching bill was introduced in 2019 by Representative Bobby Rush, Democrat of Illinois, in the House, and Senators Cory Booker, Democrat of New Jersey, and Senator Tim Scott, Republican of South Carolina, in the Senate. Now, Senator Tim Scott is the one that blocked the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, just so people understand. When it went to the Senate, it passed the House of Representatives by a vote of 220 to 212. No Republicans voted for it in the House of Representatives, and he's the one that blocked it in the Senate. Senator Kamala Harris co-wrote the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, just for all the simple Simon asses out there that don't do research. Let's see here. Let's go to this. I'm skipping over things that are redundant. Michelle Duster, Ida B. Wells' great-granddaughter, who spoke at the ceremony on Tuesday, she was there in the Rose Garden for the signing of the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill, noted that Ida B. Wells had visited President William S. McKinley at the White House in 1898 to urge him to make lynching a federal hate crime. Though efforts to enact such legislation would fail for 124 years. Also, in Tyrese's video with attorney Benjamin Crump, when Tyrese said that President Joe Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris signed the bill for Asians, which is totally false. Notice he didn't say the bill passed the House of Representatives in the U.S. Senate, because that's what happened. It's a bill. It wasn't an executive order. It's a bill. Go watch Schoolhouse Rock, ABC. I'm a bill on Capitol Hill. The bill passed the House. It passed the Senate. And then it was signed into law by the President of the United States, as stipulated by the U.S. Constitution. Just like the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. It passed the House. It passed the Senate. And was signed into law by the President of the United States. So I don't know what people like have wealth and resources and still don't know this stuff. I don't understand. And why I like Benjamin Crump, I've talked to him before on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Why he didn't fact check Tyrese right there, it's beyond me. Maybe it's because you didn't have a Sigma on the broadcast. Maybe you had a Q. Maybe it's because you had an Omega doing the Sigma's job. Maybe that's why. I don't know. Okay. So, all right. So Michelle Duster, great-granddaughter of Ida B. Wells, said, quote, "We finally stand here today, generations later, to witness this historic moment. We are here today because of the tenacity of the civil rights leaders and commitment of members of Congress who are here today." Harris, when she was Senator Kamala Harris, who was a co-sponsor of the legislation when she was a senator, said they were gathered Tuesday to do unfinished business. She was a co-sponsor of the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill when she was in the Senate. So hopefully all these people out here putting all this misinformation. Now, some of these people are being paid. Let me just deal with this. Now, we just saw the Department of Justice is prosecuting some of these disinformation agents who were getting money from Russia to put disinformation out here. And from what I know, they were white. You got other black disinformation agents. Somebody's paying them, because you can't be this stupid for free. Somebody's paying them to lie to black people to suppress the vote. Follow the money. You got black social media disinformation agents out here putting this BS out here, not providing facts and evidence, doing a disservice. Somebody's paying them, because you can't be that stupid for free. Okay, let's go to, all right, so that was from Washington Post. You can read that article. That was called Biden Signs Bill Making Lynching a Federal Hate Crime. Now, let's see here. Okay, we did the one from Associated Press. There's one from CNN that I want to show you, because the two dealing with the one from Associated Press and the one from Washington Post doesn't show you Senator Rand Paul's name. It's important for us to understand, because when I talk about political self-defense, one of the principles of political self-defense was the whole concept that I teach. One of the principles is understanding how to remove obstructionists who are blocking what it is that you want and keep voting against your interests. Removing obstructionists. The article from CNN.com that I'm going to show you actually shows you why in 2019 the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill failed. And it actually has the senator's name. Because it, just like with the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, people, I don't understand why people are blaming Biden and Harris because the bill failed. It was Senator Tim Scott, the black Republican from South Carolina. He's the one that blocked it in the Senate. Why aren't people holding Senator Tim Scott accountable for that? Biden and Harris were pushing for the bill, wanted the bill to pass. Biden said he'll sign it into law. They were advocating for the bill. Tim Scott was the traitor. Why aren't people holding him accountable? Okay, so this is the one from CNN.com. Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime into law, March 29th, 2022. I just want to go to this one quickly. Okay. Yeah, Biden signs bill making lynching a federal hate crime. Okay, this is from March 30th, 2022, CNN.com. I want to go to, let's go to lynching was terror. Lynching was a terror tactic used against Black Americans, particularly in the racially segregated South. According to Tuskegee University, which collects records on lynchings, 4,743 people were lynched from 1882 to 1968, and 3,446 of them were Black. This is about 72% or so were African American. Representative Bobby Rush of Illinois, who introduced the bill, signed into law on Tuesday. Signing the law on Tuesday, also introduced a similar version of his current bill in 2019. The following year, the House of Representatives passed that bill, but Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky, Republican from Kentucky, held it up over concerns that it was overly broad. That's why the bill did not pass the Senate, the 2019 version of the bill. That's why it did not pass the Senate, because Senator Rand Paul of Kentucky blocked the bill. Senator Rand Paul announced his support for the latest version of the bill earlier this month. And when Vice President Kamala Harris was a senator, and New Jersey Democratic Senator Cory Booker and South Carolina Republican Senator Tim Scott introduced a bill that will make lynching a federal hate crime. The Senate approved the Justice for Victims of Lynching Act in late 2018, but the legislation did not make it through the House of Representatives. All right, now, it's important to know who these people are who keep voting against our interests. Only 3 House Republicans, Andrew Clyde of Georgia, who said that he said January 6th looked like basically like tourists going to the Capitol or something to that effect. He's a Trump supporter. He's MAGA. Andrew Clyde of Georgia, Thomas Massey of Kentucky, that jackass, and Hingham High Chip Roy of Texas, who actually said lynching was a good thing. All 3 of these voted against the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. These are all Republicans. They voted against the Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. Okay, now I'm gonna post a link here. I'm gonna show you the bill here. Okay, that's Associated Press. Okay, let's look at this at congress.gov quickly. There's also one from New York Times as well. It's a good one from the New York Times also, because I have a number of different articles about this, and some of them have some additional information. So that's why I'm showing you articles from different news sources. This is a good one from the New York Times. And it also talks about what the penalty is in the bill as well. Biden signs bill to make lynching a federal crime. March 29th, 2022. I'm just going to highlight this one paragraph here. The president's signature ended more than 100 years of failed efforts by the federal government to specifically outlaw lynching. The bill, which makes lynching punishable by up to 30 years in prison, was passed by the House in February with only 3 lawmakers opposed, and passed the Senate without objection on Monday. And it talks about how Senator Kamala Harris was a sponsor of the bill also. when she was in the Senate. Okay. Now, so that's from the New York Times. Let's look at this right here. Congress.gov. HR 55, Emmett Till Anti-Lynching Act. 117th Congress. You can research this. It goes through and breaks. I'm not going to go through the whole thing. You can read this. Lynching. Whoever conspires. It breaks down what lynching is. Section 249 of Title 18 of the United States Code is amended by adding at the end of the following. Lynching. Whoever conspires to commit any offense under paragraph 1, 2, or 3 shall, if death or serious bodily injury, as defined in section 2246 of this title, results from the offense, be imprisoned for not more than 30 years, fined in accordance with this title or both. Other conspiracies, whoever conspires to commit any offense under paragraph 1, 2, or 3 shall, if death or seriously bodily injury, as defined in section 2246 of this title, results from the offense, or if the offense includes kidnapping, or an attempt to kidnap, aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to commit aggravated sexual abuse, or an attempt to kill, be imprisoned for not more than 30 years, fined in accordance with this title or both. All right, you can read the rest of this and check out the articles. Okay. Lynching is not specific to hanging. Why people think lynching is synonymous with hanging, I don't understand that. But you can go to congress.gov and read the bill, just like all the other bills, and they have summaries of the bills here also. Congress.gov is a free website, official website of the U.S. Congress. Let's see here. The post that I did on my Facebook page, I was showing you in the beginning here of the broadcast. And I included, so I always cite sources. So I included the different bills here and the hate crimes bill. We'll look at the justice.gov, which breaks down hate crimes law. But Roland Martin posted on social media, was on September 1st on X. He said, "I'm sick of celebrities talking about public policy." It was, he posted on Facebook and Instagram, actually, Facebook and Instagram. "I'm sick of celebrities talking about public policy, and they do no fact checking. At Tyrese did a video claiming Asian Americans received a hate crime bill and Black people did not. That is a 100% lie. I have debunked this lie on Roland Martin Unfiltered on several occasions. I've also debunked the lie that there has never been in American history hate crime bills for African Americans." I posted on the same day, September 1st, I posted on my Facebook and YouTube. Facebook, and I think I put on Instagram. I said, Roland Martin, I've talked about this a number of times, or Roland Martin Unfiltered. Too many people, including celebrities, don't understand history or law. The first hate crimes in the history of the U.S., the first hate crimes law in the history of U.S. was signed into law in 1968 by President Lyndon Baines Johnson as part of the Fair Housing Act. It was largely for African Americans. And then I posted this also right here, and this talks about the same thing, okay, and it cites justice.gov. So let's look at this here. Justice.gov is the official website of the U.S. Department of Justice. Also, it's important to note, and I've talked about this before, like on my show and in my classes. The U.S. Department of Justice was created in 1870 as an act of Congress during Reconstruction. It was largely created to enforce the new rights that were given to African Americans. This is why the U.S. Department of Justice was created in the first place. Created 150 years ago, the Justice Department's first mission was to protect Black rights. Created 150 years ago, the Justice Department's first mission was to protect Black rights. In the wake of the Civil War, the government's new force sought to enshrine equality under the law. So this is from July 1st, 2020 by Brian Green for SmithsonianMag.com, official website of the Smithsonian Institute and their magazine. Okay, and they talk about Amos T. Ackerman, who was the first Attorney General under the Department of Justice. Now, the Office of the Attorney General dates back to about 1789, but the actual Department of Justice was not created until 1870. And that was largely for African Americans, just so people understand history, because unfortunately, too many of us do not. So read this piece here. And the first thing they were doing was prosecuting the Ku Klux Klan, cracking down on the Ku Klux Klan, prosecuting the Ku Klux Klan. And President Ulysses S. Grant in 1871, after the Ku Klux Klan Act of 1871 was passed by Congress, he imposed martial law in 9 counties in South Carolina to crack down on Ku Klux Klan activity, and the Department of Justice was prosecuting and getting a lot of them convicted. Okay, so read this article here. All right, now, okay, we did the Imhotep anti-lynching bill. We did the COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act. Okay, we did all of that. Was this? I think there was something else I was going to show. Oh, justice.gov. That's what I want. Okay, this right here. This is at justice.gov. What's justice.gov? Official website of the Department of Justice. Okay, hate crimes laws. About hate crimes. Since 1968, when Congress passed and President Lyndon Johnson signed into law the first federal hate crimes statute, the Department of Justice has been enforcing federal hate crime laws. The 1968 statute made it a crime to use or threaten to use force to willfully interfere with any person because of race, color, religion, or national origin, and because the person is participating in a federally protected activity, such as public education, employment, jury service, travel, or the employment of public accommodations, or helping another person do so. In 1968, Congress also made it a crime to use or threaten to use force to interfere with housing rights because of the victim's race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. In 1988, protections on the basis of familial status and disability were added. In 1996, Congress passed the Church Arson Prevention Act, 18 U.S.C. 247. Under this act, it is a crime to deface, damage, or destroy religious real property or interfere with a person's religious practice in situations affecting interstate commerce. The act also bars defacing, damaging, or destroying religious property because of the race, religion, or ethnicity of persons associated with the property. In 2009, Congress passed and President Obama signed the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Hate Crimes Prevention Act, expanding the federal definition of hate crimes, enhancing the legal toolkit available to prosecutors, and increasing the ability of federal law enforcement to support our state and local partners. The law removed then existing jurisdictional obstacles to prosecutions of certain race and religion motivated violence and added new federal prosecutions against crimes based on gender, disability, gender identity, or sexual orientation. Before the Civil Rights Division prosecutes a hate crime, the Attorney General or someone the Attorney General designate must certify in writing that 1, the states do not have jurisdiction, 2, the state has requested that the federal government assume jurisdiction, 3, the verdict or sentence obtained pursuant to state charges did not demonstrably vindicate the federal interest in eradicating bias motivated violence, or 4, a prosecution by the United States is in the public interest and necessary to secure substantial justice. Then they go and talk about the Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Act of 2009 that President Obama signed. They go break that down. The Shepard-Byrd Act is the first statute allowing federal criminal prosecution of hate crimes motivated by the victim's actual or perceived sexual orientation or gender identity. Okay. The Shepard-Byrd Act makes it a federal crime to willfully cause bodily injury or attempt to do so using a dangerous weapon, blah, blah, blah. Okay. The act extends federal hate crime prohibitions to crimes committed because of actual perceived religion, national origin, gender, sexual orientation, gender identity, or disability of any person, only where the crime affected interstate or foreign commerce or occurred within federal, special maritime, and territorial jurisdiction. In James Byrd, for those that don't know, that was the black man who was killed in Jasper, Texas. He was dragged behind the pickup truck. Let's see. Okay, so you can read the rest of these. They go through and break down the different hate crimes bills. Okay, so 68, 96, 2009, 2022, all signed by Democratic presidents. For those that haven't been paying attention. All right. Okay. Cedric, you need to go read the bill. Okay, now. The COVID-19 Hate Crimes Act, once again, does not only deals with data collecting. That's what the bill deals with. It deals with data collect, making it easier to collect data dealing with COVID-19 related hate crimes. Go read the bill. Let's see here. I want to make sure, because I had a bunch of articles here lined up, so I just want to make sure I cover everything. Visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can register for the online history classes that I teach. We deal with thousands of years of history. I teach 2 online history classes, Saturdays 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. and Sundays 4 p.m. to 6 p.m. Saturdays is Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. And then on Sundays, Black resistance movements, from Christopher Columbus to the Haitian Revolution and the Black Power movement, 1492 to 1968. So we have classes coming up this weekend. Classes on sale, $80. We do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch it anytime. We have a bundle pack of courses. You can register for both classes also. I do a PowerPoint presentation. We have book references, articles, video clips. Even after the course is over with, you still have access to the full class. You can go back and watch it anytime. And then Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding transatlantic slave trade. That meets this weekend also. You can we have the course outline here that you can download as well. So it gives you a lesson plan for each class session. There's about 100 articles that we reference. The first class is about 200 slides, 15 books that we reference. You don't have to buy any of the books to follow along in class. Click right here to download the lesson plan also, okay? I show you it's a very visual class, so I show you the excerpts of the books right on the screen, all right? Okay, so the content is PG-13. You can use this with your children as well. I don't do a lot of cursing. It's not overly vulgar or anything like that. It's nothing like that, okay? Let me see. I just want to make sure I get through all these because I was putting together all this information here to make sure I hit all the points. And I saw all this nonsense just floating around on social media. And I couldn't believe Tyrese put some BS out here like this and didn't do any research. Okay, so I think I got everything. All right. You can also support the African History Network, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, $, the AHN Show through Cash App, and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN Show. The subs keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting. Listen to watch the African History Network Show Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on our social media platforms, Facebook and YouTube. We got a Cash App information here. This is our official Cash App account, $, the AHN Show, SHOW. And you can, these other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts. When you go to ours, it'll say Michael and show my picture there, most likely. $, the AHN Show, SHOW. Click right here on the link. It has our QR code right here. The other ones are fake African History Network Cash App accounts that have been stealing money from us. I'm still trying to get them shut down. Okay, so this election season is extremely important. You know, we've been covering this. We've been dealing with this on Roland Martin Unfiltered. You see the articles I post on my social media platforms. I've been dealing with this on the African History Network show. We just had Reese Colbert on from Black Women's Views and Sirius XM, the Clay Kane show, as well as the Reese Colbert show. We had her on August 11th, dealing with dispelling myths and dealing with all these myths and lies being spread about Vice President Kamala Harris, especially when she was district attorney in San Francisco, and when she was attorney general in California also. So go to my YouTube channel. Go to my YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP, and we have the information there. You see Reese on Roland Martin Unfiltered also. It is, let's see, we got and I've been I rebroadcast these shows. So this is one with Reese. One of these was viewed 8,000 times, something like that. Okay, so it is this one right here. We've rebroadcasted it a few times. Fact checking the lies and distortion of Vice President Kamala Harris' record with guest Reese Colbert. Okay, so we have it right here on my YouTube channel, and it's on Facebook also. The African History Network on Facebook, and Michael Imhotep, IMHOTEP on YouTube. And we go through and break down in depth a lot of this BS floating around about here and provide you with the evidence. Proper documentation ends all conversation. And also, for those that still don't do research, this is the post I did on social media. Now, if people don't read, I can't help you. I'm sorry. If people have comprehension issues, I can't help you. Whitehouse.gov. This is a 36-page document that shows how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are helping the Black community. Fact sheet: the Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans and communities across the country. Now, the first version of this came out in October 2021. I read it when it first came out. I've read it, and it's updated every 6, 7, 8 months, something like that. I've read it each time it comes out. Now, I'm on whitehouse.gov pretty frequently, but the way I found this was I just Googled, how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped African Americans? The first thing that comes up is this. So when I hear people that say Biden and Harris haven't done anything for Black people, I'm looking at them like, Google doesn't work on your phone. Did you pay your phone bill? You don't have internet at home? You don't know how to use Google? You don't know how to use Bing? I don't understand this. When you go through and look at it, it breaks down everything from the $1.2 trillion American Rescue Plan, okay, to the $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill. Is actually 15 million jobs. Now, this is older. It's 15 million jobs created by Biden and Harris. 2.6 million jobs went to African Americans. They have a newer version of this, came out February 2024, which is 9 pages. It's more condensed, but it's updated. It has some additional information. I like the 36-page version so we can go through and just look at all these policies. Lowering energy costs and creating economic opportunities through the Inflation Reduction Act that no Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for, because climate change disproportionately hurts Black people. And the bill does not have to say Black or African American for it to benefit you. You have to understand how to write bills. I have experience in writing policy. President Biden and congressional Democrats successfully fought to pass the historic legislation to help all Americans, including African Americans, who have been at the forefront of climate change by lowering costs, advancing environmental justice, while building a cleaner future and growing the economy from the bottom up and the middle out. They go through and they show you how these policies are helping African Americans, making home efficiency upgrades more affordable. Increases in energy costs disproportionately hurt African Americans. Households can save up to 30% with tax credits for efficient heating and cooling equipment that will save them hundreds of dollars on utility bills. They go through and break all this down. And if you understand the devastation that the U.S. Interstate Highway Acts in 1952 and 1956 did when they drove through 41,000 miles of interstate highways and they ran through 1,600 African-American communities, it disrupted African-American communities. The $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill is the first process, the first stage, beginning to repair those communities that were disrupted when the expressways ran through. But also what they did was, in African-American communities, the temperatures tend to be 4 to 5 degrees higher, or maybe a little more, because in our communities, we have more pavement as a result of the U.S. Interstate Highway Acts, and we have less trees. Trees provide shade and lower the temperature to reduce energy costs, especially during the summer. And in our communities, you have more instances of heat-related illnesses, heat stroke, things of this nature, because of the environment, because of conditions. All that deals with policy, creating economic opportunities and good paying jobs, et cetera. They go through, break this down. They look at the clean, that's dealing with the Inflation Reduction Act, that's dealing with the Inflation Reduction Act and the jobs tied to that. Provide relief to farmers. They just released the $2.2 billion to African American farmers and farmers of color. We posted a video of Senator J.D. Vance, okay, of Ohio, Senator J.D. Vance, who came out in opposition to this. This is to address historic discrimination. Republicans are against that. J.D. Vance came out. He was in the interview, I think it was on CNN. Dana Bash, I think that was a CNN interview. And he spoke out against it. He didn't talk about the 100 years prior of discrimination from the U.S. Department of Agriculture towards African American farmers. He just said they got money because they're black. No, it's because of racism coming from the federal government because they're black. They didn't get money just because they're black. No, and this is a trick that a lot of Republicans do. They want to skip over the 100 years of discriminatory policies. They want to skip over all that and just say, oh, you're giving them something you didn't give white farmers. No, you skipped over what white farmers got that black farmers didn't get. Okay. So go through, I've gone through this a number of times here on the show, and we've gone through like all 36 pages. I don't have that type of time today. Making critical investments in black families and communities in the American Rescue Plan that saved the economy, the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan for March 2021 that no Republicans in the House or the Senate voted for, the historic expansion of the child tax credit that cut black child poverty in half. So people talk about stimulus checks they got with Donald Trump's signature on it. They ain't talk about the stimulus checks they got because of the American Rescue Plan and the child tax credit. The expanded child tax credit provided a critical lifeline to millions of black families during the nation's recovery from the economic crisis created by the pandemic. And the president continues to urge Congress to extend the life-changing tax relief. The only reason the American Rescue Plan passed the U.S. Senate is because Vice President Kamala Harris was the tie-breaking vote, because it was a 50-50 Senate. And in the 50-50 Senate, if there's a tie on a vote, the vice president gets a tie-breaking vote. No Republicans voted for the $1.9 trillion American Rescue Plan that saved the economy, brought us out of COVID, opened schools back up, paid for funding for better ventilation systems and smaller classrooms and to hire more teachers, things like this. Republicans were saying, open the schools, open the schools. When it came time to fund opening the schools, every last one of them, the over 200 in the House and the 50 in the Senate, every last one of them voted no on the bill. And the only reason why the bill passed the Senate was because Vice President Kamala Harris was a tie-breaking vote to vote for that bill. How many people are explaining this to you? Supporting child care providers and reducing child care costs for black families. The American Rescue Plan provided a $39 billion lifeline to help child care providers stay open and compensate early childhood educators as they provide safe and healthy environments for children and help parents work. States have already delivered American Rescue Plan stabilization grants to more than 200,000 child care providers, 1 in 5 of whom are black, serving as many as 9.5 million children and their families. In most states, providers in 98% of persistent poverty counties received aid, and more than half of the providers receiving funds were operating in the most racially diverse counties in the country. Go through and read this. All these simple Simon ass people out here putting this misinformation out there, share this with them. Because they don't like to read. I'm telling you now, they don't like to read. There was $46.5 billion in rental assistance for renters and property owners, landlords. They help people stay in their homes, help people stay in their apartments, and to help landlords keep their property. All right, read the rest of this. I don't have time to go through all of it. It's a lot. This doesn't include the Imhotep anti-lynching bill. That well, no, this came out February 20th. This includes the Imhotep anti-lynching bill. It was something else that this one didn't include, but the new one does. Oh, this doesn't include the $16 billion for HBCUs. Hello? From the Biden-Harris administration, a record amount of funding, $16 billion. Go research that. So just like you have grifters who are Donald Trump supporters, just like you have grifters who profit off of keeping white people ignorant, you got black grifters that do the same thing, that profit off of people, that profit off of keeping white people ignorant. The Trump grifters, you got black people that do the same thing. So go read that. And if you just Google how have the policies of the Biden-Harris administration helped the black community or helped the African Americans, that's one of the first things that's going to come up. That's at whitehouse.gov. Whitehouse.gov is tons of information, all the press conferences and speeches that the president and vice president give, all at whitehouse.gov, bills that they sign, executive orders, all that, that's at whitehouse.gov. You can read all that at whitehouse.gov. It's not a mystery. Okay, look, we have to get out of here. Remember that the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. Right now it's corrects wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever.